Welcome back. Now, as promised before the break, we will be turning our attention now to Trinidad and Tobago's digital transformation. It was something that the Minister of Finance would have mentioned yesterday while reading out the budget, the fiscal package for 2022. So to help me understand where Trinidad and Tobago stands in terms of its digital transformation, as well as to really pick their brains to understand if we can head in that direction, I have with me Keron, who is an online business strategist and coach, and who has worked with Caribbean entrepreneurs and businesses across the region. He focuses on helping businesses build their digital presence and how to monetize their platforms. And he's also the host of one of the top business podcasts in the Caribbean, Digipreneur FM. Now, he has also worked with companies across the Caribbean such as Flow, Digicel, B-Mobile, Sagicor, WePay, FCB, and prides himself on being an agent of change in the Caribbean. We also have Ocey Phillips, who is an expert. He provides expertise in unparalleled opportunities for businesses to envision innovative solutions tailored specifically for each industry in order to stay ahead of developing customer demands using digital strategy services that will be the future standard operating procedure across any company seeking success in this ever-changing environment we live in today. He is a digital transformation consultant who helps companies find their own evolution in an ever-changing world. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to AM Prime.
Morning.
Morning. Thank you for having us.
It's my absolute pleasure. So we are talking the 2022 national budget. And if it's one thing that COVID-19 has taught us, it is that we have to make that switch to digital. Because if we want to ensure that persons are safe, we want to lessen that kind of physical interaction as best as possible. But more than anything, we want to make life easier for people. Because if I have the opportunity to sit at home and conduct several government transactions, as well as my private business and so forth, then why not? Why do I have to get up and go fight up in traffic and all of that? I want to mention to you a quote from the national budget. The Minister of Finance, he said, "We must now become a supplier of digital goods and services, with such goods and services made in Trinidad and Tobago for Trinidad and Tobago." So, gentlemen, where do you see Trinidad and Tobago standing in terms of its digital footprint right now? Are you pleased with where we are at right now, or do you think that we have a lot more work to do? Keron, how about I start with you?
So for me, in the work that I do with Caribbean businesses and entrepreneurs, I feel like we have a lot of work to do, but we have some of the basic pieces that we need to be able to transform a lot of our businesses. And I feel like that gets glossed over because there's a lack of education and there's a lack of information available to people. So because the institutions because of the institutions that we have, nobody's putting out information for, just a regular citizen to jump on Google, ask a question and get the relevant information they need to be able to understand what components they might need to be able to either start a business, what are some of the new skills they might need to be able to find new jobs or create employment for themselves or transform their business. But we have some of the key pieces. I've moved here about 7 years ago, and within 7 years, I've been able to build my own online business and get clients from all over the globe and get paid right here in TT dollars or USD. So we have all of the necessary pieces, but for me and what I see, we lack a lot of the education for people to understand how all of this works and begin to implement it. But again, some of the core pieces are there.
And Ocey, how do you feel about Trinidad and Tobago's standing when it comes to its digital presence?
Just to add on what Keron said, there's a lot of things that could be done. There's the potential there. There are some of the things that are ready, but people overlook it. And we just need to enforce these things and look at where we're going. A lot of people speak digital transformation, but nobody talks about a digital business and what you should look like after you transform. So there isn't really an image of what we should look like. And I feel like if we're not moving with a clear goal in mind, and we would miss some of the steps. I think a lot of that is what's happening. So we need to have a real open and honest assessment of where we are in terms of digital readiness, digital acumen and stuff. And then before we move forward, we need to see where we are, what we need to fix. Probably some things we just need to pull in place. Yeah. Some are ready, some are not so ready, some need to be polished up. And then we assess that and then we move forward.
And you all may very well know that we have a ministry of digital transformation. It would have previously been pegged to public administration, so it was Ministry of Public Administration and Digital Transformation, but we saw recently it would have split. And it shows, at least many people will perceive it as the government's commitment to seriously pursue digital transformation. But one of the markers, I think, of our economy's thrust toward that area is whether or not we can get the public service to seriously go online. We have seen some of government services go online, but it would have been largely due to COVID-19, and we were forced to in many respects. Do you think that once COVID-19 is behind us, we will continue an upward trend toward getting as many services online as possible, or would we fall back into our Trini ways and habits that we're so accustomed to? Keron?
So, one of the silver linings to COVID-19 is the fact that it's lasted so long, because if COVID-19 finished within 6 months, we were going right back to what we were supposed to do. The fact that it's lasted this long and there is no end in sight is the reason why everybody is scrambling now to finally transform a lot of the services that they have and get them online. And I think that's the only silver lining for me is because it's been lasting so long, it's just going to force everybody. So by the time it is finished, I think we should have a good amount of our services and institutions at least have the bare minimum to conduct transactions online.
Nice. And Ocey, I know that also in the budget presentation, the minister said that online learning more or less is here to stay. So that was a strong statement, I think, from the government, more or less looking at its commitment to ensure that it gets that online learning platform right. Do you think this is the start of a new type of citizen, insofar as a citizen who has the knowledge and the opportunity, the ability to navigate in digital spaces, because it's now actually being offered in the schooling system as opposed to something that you just learn on the side? Your parents probably send you for computer classes and so forth. So do you think this is going to change the dynamics of the population moving forward?
That is a really, really tricky thing to achieve, because when you assess societies from innovators right back to laggards, one strategy is not going to fit all types of citizens. So there are the innovators who will thrive in that online learning platforms and those avenues. Mm-hmm. And there are the people who still are accustomed to that in-person learning, because the business of education itself, or mass education of citizens, mean that you put them through a system that produces staff or produces people that would pass through society. Mm-hmm. Now we have different types of people coming through society, want different things. Some people like the gig economy, some don't want to see tertiary education. And we need to find at least a strategy that encompasses every single type of citizen. Because one things that cause the most problems with digital transformation is culture. And I think we need to have a really open and honest assessment of our culture, and then provide specific things that would be enabled with technology to suit every single type of citizen.
Yes. And
just to add to that real quick, I think us relying on the Ministry of Education and the schools to educate within the digital space, I think works to our detriment, because things change so fast and so quickly that if we don't teach people about all of the different resources available to us where we can be educated in real time, if we are waiting for the schools and the Ministry of Education to pick up or create a curriculum for digital skills, we are always going to be behind the 8 ball. We don't have to wait for school to be educated. There's tons of platforms right now where we can get universal credentials and be certified. And if people are exposed to these things, it's going to work for us better. I think the big thing really is just helping people get access of internet, the tools to be able to access a lot of these platforms.
And speaking of which, one of the things that the minister would have mentioned is that the government is going to start a pilot project come next year that will involve digital wallets and so forth, something that you guys are versed in and actually would have spoken to. But I do get your point where the reliance on the ministry and so forth works to our detriment. But the fact is that society is created or shaped in such a way where we kind of stick with the status quo. There are those disruptors, there are those individuals who want to make a difference. But if we're not seeing the enabling environment to do it, and of course the government has to kind of set the framework in many respects for the kind of environment, because you can have a digital wallet but have no use for it in Trinidad and Tobago. So do you actually see these statements as about digital wallets, about these pilot projects and so forth, as really the government kind of warming up seriously? Because we had a situation not too long ago where the government was saying that central bank digital currencies was not something on its radar, but we're seeing quickly that its position is changing. Do you fear that it might be a flip-flop situation and then citizens will be just the ones caught in the middle? Keron?
Ocey, go ahead.
Okay, Ocey.
So Keron pointed to me because this is something that I run into. So most of my digital transformation projects I've done across Africa, across multiple countries. And I'm playing in the fintech space in terms of enabling companies to become fintechs and people to use wallets and people to transact even through WhatsApp and via SMS and stuff like that, right? So saying that the government is speaking about it is good. I think what is really, really key about this is that middle part, that implementation aspect of it. You know what you have to do, but how to do it, I mean, a strategy is as good as its execution. And I think that is where it gets tricky. How do you implement these things? By not just thinking about the government itself, but thinking about the citizen at the end of the product. So it has to be smooth enough for all parties involved. So a citizen has to be seamless to transact. The business has to be seamless to receive that transaction and then deliver a product or service to the nation. And when you do that, you build that trust over a period of time, because technology will fail, we will get it wrong. And that's why transparency and documenting the journey and how we break things out and having customers understand or citizens understand where they fit, why we do this, how it would benefit them. And when people understand what they're a part of is when you would achieve better results in whatever you go out to do.
Excellent. Well, guys, I know that time has unfortunately run out on us, but I think this was a good start to a conversation, a serious conversation about digital transformation and whether or not it's viable in Trinidad and Tobago. And both of you gentlemen, I know this is your area of expertise in terms of podcasts and so forth that you would speak to. So I just want to give each of you an opportunity to let persons know how they can hear a lot more from you guys. So whether it is they go to your website and so forth, and I know that we should have those things coming up on the screen there, but Keron, you can go there. How can people get to hear a lot more from you moving forward?
Yeah, no problem. So you guys can visit keronrose.com. I put out a lot of content on building your online business, e-commerce, creating digital products and services. And I do a lot of courses, workshops, free speaking gigs. So you can check that out for the information there. And then you could also check out the Digipreneur FM podcast, available in all podcast directories. And we focus on talking to companies, experts across the region, and all topics related to online business and building your digital presence.
Excellent. Ocey?
So you could find me on Ocey Phillips at all channels or social media, Ocey Phillips on YouTube. For me specifically, I did a couple of blogs on oceyphillips.com speaking to the Ministry of Digital Transformation and things in Trinidad. You could check those out. I have a podcast slowly coming up, Keron knows. It's going to be called the Digital Reality Show, where I speak about how businesses and people itself could navigate the digital age that we're in now, more so from a local context based on the exposure that I've had working on projects in all other parts of the world.
Excellent. So, gentlemen, thank you so much again for joining me this morning. And I think very much I want to have this kind of a conversation again and expand it a lot more. I think it's necessary and people need to understand this is the direction that we're heading, like it or not, and we have to be prepared. So, guys, thank you again so much for joining me this morning.
Thank you for having us.
Hi, man. Thank you very much.
And that was Keron Rose and Ocey Phillips speaking on the issue of digital transformation, helping us to break down those aspects of the budget and to think about what's next for this country. We're going to take a break at this point. When we come back, we will be speaking energy with former Minister of Energy and Energy Affairs. You don't want to miss it.